Hi, I just have one more thing to check. Do you have any health concerns or issues?
Not really with him, but I am concerned about general practice of parasite control and deworming and what I need to do to keep him healthy.
There are quite a few parasites that we're concerned about in horses. Bots are something you probably see in the eggs on horses' legs in the fall. They're yellow. Those can actually be a problem in the GI tract. They migrate into their stomach. Ascarids are a problem in young horses. They can actually cause impactions when there's so many worms that they actually block their GI tract. And you have to use surgery to resolve that. Strongyles are considered bloodworms. They actually feed off of the blood in the horse, which certainly can cause a poor doer. And tapeworms, quite often horses will just be poor doers. They don't seem to gain weight. And what you'll see are things that look like rice on their back end. Another problem are pinworms. Those like to migrate to their hind end, and a lot of horses will rub their tails. And so horses that you see that are constantly rubbing their tails quite often have an infestation of pinworms.
How can I tell whether or not my horse has those, or to what degree he has them?
Well, there are some obvious signs of heavy infestation. Quite often you'll see a potbelly or a poor hair coat, but those are not typical in a healthy horse. So older horses seem to have more problems. They seem to be more immune compromised, and so they show more of the clinical signs, and young horses as well. But your horse, which looks very healthy, can be the typical parasite carrying horse. Parasites like to make sure that they have a good host or a place to live, and so they're not going to try to kill their host.
Can we test to find out
Yes.
what type of parasites we may be dealing with, or if there is a problem?
Absolutely. What we recommend are fecal egg counts. We like to have owners bring in a fecal ball from their horse every 2 to 3 months. We like to see what the parasite load is. We look at how many eggs there are per gram of fecal matter, and by looking at that number we can determine if they have a heavy parasite load, and then by doing several tests we can determine if a horse is a chronic carrier. And we have high, medium, and low carriers, and those horses seem to shed their entire life, and regardless of the treatment that we use, they seem to be shedders no matter what. And so by identifying those horses, we can change the management of how we treat their parasites and how we pasture them so that they're not contaminating or infesting other horses.
Depending on that load, do you deworm them differently, or how do we determine how to deworm?
The nice thing about checking their fecal content is that we can determine what type of eggs they have, and there are different drugs that we treat parasites with that are specific for different eggs or different parasites. So, if we have a shedder, we can do daily treatment of those horses with something like a parental pomoate. Or if they have tapeworms, which we can't really determine if they're tapeworm carriers by looking at their fecal content, but we can determine if they are if they're shedding the proglodids, or the small pieces of rice. And there are different drugs that are more appropriate for that.
Do we worm is there a general program we worm for, or do we tailor it for every horse?
We like to tailor it for every horse, but we do like to deworm in the spring and fall. We used to say that once it frosts, a heavy frost in the fall, then go ahead and deworm. But we found that frost doesn't necessarily kill the parasites. So it's really just a time of year that we want to get rid of the load that they might have from the summer, and so we want to use a good general dewormer in the fall, and the same in the spring. And then we like to test their fecal content at various times of the year just to maintain appropriate load.
So how do we go ahead and do the fecal testing?
Well, it's really easy. All you need is a Ziploc bag. And all you need to do is just pick up a fecal ball from their stall. Fresh is better than old. So I'll show you how to do it in a stall.
Great, let's do it.
We like something fresh, and all you need to do is grab a Ziploc baggie. Preferably use the Ziploc baggie inside out rather than using your hand, and just pick up a fecal ball. If there's nothing solid, just grab something about the size of a fecal ball. Close it and bring it into the clinic. If you can't bring it in immediately, it's good to put it in the refrigerator.
Great, thank you.